hearing. Before we begin, let me introduce some town members. Paul Hennings, counsel to this board. To his left is David Flynn, Assistant Planning Director. To his left is Blaise Donadio, who is a planner in the Planning Department. Now let me tell you why you're here tonight. New York State statute requires that any town that adopts zoning must also have a Board of Appeals to act as a relief valve so that those persons aggrieved by strict application of the zoning ordinance can seek relief without the expense of going to court. Town Board can give Board of Appeals additional powers such as special exception approvals, site plan approvals. In Smithtown, the Town Board has given this board authority regarding certificate of existing use and some special exception uses. The most common kind of application before the board are area variances. Area variants deal with dimensions such as lot area, frontage, height, setbacks, and parking spaces. New York State statute mandates that the board must consider the following 5 criteria in area variances. When you come to the podium to present your application, you need to address these 5 areas. They're posted here for you. Number 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created. Number 2, whether the applicant has other feasible alternatives. Number 3, whether the variance is substantial. Number 4 is whether an adverse impact on the environment will be created. And number 5, whether the alleged difficulty is self-created. The statute requires the board to balance the interest of the applicant and those of the neighborhood or community. This statute further requires that the board shall grant the minimum variance it shall deem necessary and adequate, and at the same time preserve and protect the character of the neighborhood and the health, safety, and welfare of the community. The board has the power to impose reasonable conditions for granting variances. Special exception applications are different than area variances. When we have a special exception application before us, I will explain the different criteria for each. Regarding procedure, cases will be called in order that they are advertised. When your case is called, please come forward, submit your affidavits and mailing receipts to Mr. Donadio. Then you'll be sworn in at the podium and given the opportunity to explain to this board why you need the variance. After the applicant is done speaking, all interested parties will be given one opportunity and only one opportunity to be heard. So please, organize your thoughts, keep your marks factual that are related to the case. Then I will ask the applicant to come back to the podium and answer your concerns. The board will then close the case and reserve decision. After all the hearings are closed, the board will review the cases and decide some of them. Others will be reviewed at a later date. There are 3 ways to find out the results of the case. 1, you can wait until after the public hearing, but there's no guarantee the board will act on your case tonight. Number 2, you can call the planning department tomorrow afternoon. And 3, applicants can wait and be notified by mail. All right. We do not have any adjournments tonight, so Mr. Flynn, would you read the first case for us, please?
The first case is 16,891, Pancella Haupt. I think it's Pancella, I'm sorry, April and Pancella Haupt. 40 Mantac Path, Kings Park, New York. Location south side of Chatham Road, 147 feet east of Kings Park Road, Commack. Property zoned R10. Variance to reduce minimum setback of a 4-foot retaining wall from property line from 4 feet to 0 feet. Permit environmentally sensitive land, that is slopes in excess of 15%, to be altered. Reduce setback from environmentally sensitive land from 10 feet to 0 feet.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. We've submitted affidavits and posting to Blaise. I know you have pictures in your folder as well as a survey, and you can see that the retaining walls are in the rear of the property. And basically the reason for the retaining walls, I always do it, I'm sorry. The reason for the retaining walls is that prior to, and these walls are all proposed, the applicants went to the building department and got a permit to dig out the basement so that there could be a walkout basement on the, at the rear of the property, at the rear of the house. In doing so, they naturally had to lower the terrain of the ground so that there would be actually a method of getting out of the house, and so they had to follow that through, if you will. Otherwise, it would have been a very steep slope. So now they're coming to this board and asking the board, they haven't done anything yet, for a variance to construct these walls. Now, one of the things that we're asking for, of course, is to build a retaining wall right on the line. And the reason for that is, you'll notice it's 102 feet across the rear of the property, but the property narrows, well, it gets wider at the end, but narrows towards the front. If they were to conform to the ordinance, they would have to take 8 feet of usable property because the walls would be set back 4 feet on each side. That's a large amount of property to have to lose in a property that's not that large to start with. So that's why the request is what it is with respect to these retaining walls. We think it's the best way to handle it, and I have an affidavit from one of the neighbors, Kevin Galvin, who lives adjacent to the property, who was indicating he has no objection. My understanding is the other neighbors who didn't come tonight also are in favor of the application, and certainly they have no objection. So we don't feel that it would have an adverse effect on the character of the area. We don't feel that it would have any effect with respect to environmental issues. I mean, they're retaining walls. We know that there's somewhat of steep slopes, but nothing to speak of in the area. Certainly isn't one of a high water table. Whether the method could be achieved by some other method, well, I guess you could move the retaining walls in, but again, you'd lose 8 feet, and there's really no reason to do it. The walls are constructed out of special blocks that are made specially for retaining walls. They're made with a geogrid, which is a cloth fabric that goes into the dirt sides and holds the walls up. This is not a wood retaining wall. It's a masonry wall, and that's basically what's used for most retaining walls today. I don't believe that the engineering department would have any problem with this. They usually recommend masonry walls. So was the difficulty self-created? No, we're coming to the board. We're asking for their favorable consideration. And again, given the fact of the size of the property and to lose 4 feet on each side just doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't affect anybody else. So we ask the board for its favorable consideration. The applicants are here tonight if you have any questions.
Okay. Planning?
The planning department recommends approval of 2 of the variances, but not the distance to the property lines, unless no variance would be needed on the neighboring properties. But if one is altering environmentally sensitive lands on those properties, then they would need variances. And then the second thing is that if the geogrid that's normally required for the retaining wall goes on the neighboring property, that the board require that there be an easement, because someday in the future, if someone has to go in and fix it or whatever, it could be a problem without some form of permission.
My understanding, and the neighbors on either side have no objection to the construction of the wall and the encroachment during construction on their property to place the geogrid. I don't think, if I understood David correctly, that we need a variance to alter the property on either side, because it'd be a temporary measure, and the property would put back to where it was before as soon as the construction was done.
Gentlemen?
I guess concerning the geogrid that has to get installed, looks like here it's about 2 feet that it's going to be behind the wall.
Wait, I'm sorry, excuse me, what? Okay, I'm sorry, Tom.
It appears in the drawing that the geogrid that they have to install would extend about 2 feet behind the wall.
I think so, yeah.
I guess one of the problems that you have down the road is that neighbors change, and if they ever have to do anything, to Dave's point, how do they do that if they don't have a neighbor that may not be amenable to letting them come on their property to repair the wall?
Okay, if I understand correctly, the applicant does have the permission of both neighbors on either side. I guess what we could do is enter into a covenant and file it with the county, indicating that they would have an easement to maintain the wall. And then, no matter who owns properties on either side, my clients would be allowed to go in and maintain the wall.
To me, that's the only issue down the road, is that it always winds up a bone of contention that when a wall's right on the line is whose is it, because nobody knows. Would they be willing to file a covenant that would kind of state that it's their wall, just so that, you know, this board can justify approving something like that?
Right. I don't think that's unreasonable, because they may have to maintain it, although these are masonry blocks. I don't know, you know, how
Yeah,
long
you
they
never
last
know.
or whatever, but in the event that's the case, it would be similar to a boundary line agreement, but not a boundary line agreement. It would be a work easement. The state does that all the time with property owners.
Thank you.
Any other questions, gentlemen?
No question.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Come up, please. Will you state your name, please, and spell your last name?
Lawrence Estrich, E-S-T-R-E-I-C-H.
And your address, please?
153 Cornell Drive.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I am the owner of the property to the rear of the subject premises,
Okay.
and I'd like to ask as to the possibility of any future adverse effects to the land affecting my property in terms of a runoff problem which has been persistent for many years now. And if there's going to be any change to a boundary wall subject to the adjacent of my property line, I'd like it placed for the record that I be asked to have some type of an easement or a covenant, as you had mentioned previous, prior to any work that might be adverse to my property.
Okay. All
That's
right.
it.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there anyone else? Okay. Mr. Tramarko?
With respect to that gentleman's concern, we're not touching the wall in the back. Also, as the board well knows, all water runoff must be maintained on the property. So if there creates any water runoff and the engineering department looks at this map and says, well, you got to put in a dry well in the back, well, that's what we have to do. But there'll be no runoff on anybody else's property.
I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second?
Readily moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
The next case is 16892, Giuseppe Abrancati, Emmanuel Realty, Inc., 1015 West Jericho Turnpike, Smithtown, New York. Location, south side of Hayrick Lane, 239 feet east of Oatley Drive, Comac. Property zoned R10. Variance to reduce minimum rear yard setback from 50 feet to 48 feet, to increase maximum gross floor area from 25% to 36% for a proposed two-story dwelling that involves the removal of an existing dwelling.
May I have your name, please?
Richard Koski, sorry.
Uh,
Richard Koski with Southport Design.
You have the applicant here?
I do, he's right back here.
I need the applicant first.
Sure thing.
Thank you. May I have your name, please?
Yes, Giuseppe Brancati.
All right, and your address?
Home address, 31 Grandview Lane, Smithtown.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Would you like this gentleman to speak for you?
Yes,
Okay, good.
thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, just make sure you use the mic, please. Now, I'm going to ask you to state your name and spell your last name.
Sure. Richard Koski, Cosci,
And your address?
120 Ocean Avenue in Bayport, New York.
Okay, will you raise your right hand, please?
I will.
Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Okay, you want to tell us
Would you
why
want
we're
me to
here?
bring this up first, or?
Oh, are those the affidavits? Yes.
Yeah.
Please. And the green cards? Good.
Thank you very much.
You will.
So we have two variances in front of you this evening, one for setback at the rear yard, which we're requesting 2 feet. And the other is, has to do with floor area. So I'd like to break those down into just two separate items. The request for,
Excuse me. We don't have the proof that these were received. These are proof that they were sent,
oh, excuse me a second.
the green cards.
It's a little cooler in here, isn't it? Quiet,
Thank you very much.
You okay? Doing okay?
Okay, so rear yard setback, we're asking for a 2 feet relaxation. Would like the board to recognize this is for an open porch off the rear of the house. It is not for an enclosed structure or a two-story structure. We have made as good of use as we can of the property and the size that we have, which is, this is a 75 by 133 foot piece of property. However, the way that, if you look at the plans, the way that the roof lines, this is an aggressive architectural design, and the way that the roof lines come together at the back of the house, that small setback that we're asking for is a tremendous help in water management off the rear off the rear roof, as well as giving us ample space under that covered porch. I would also like to talk about the percentage. Prior to submitting this application, I just want to make it known that we had met with Lou at the building department. We had discussed what we were talking about as far as the overall size. We're 35.86%. However, there's a couple of details that are important to know. The first detail that's important is that a full 10% of that number, 3.78%, is unusable attic space. Is unusable attic space. And let me clarify that. You guys see a number of applications in front of you throughout the year, and there are many times I'm sure that people come in front of you and say, well, you know, it's just attic space, and it's just attic space. And meanwhile, they're presenting you a plan that's a two-story colonial with a big A-frame attic and dormers and windows and all that stuff, with the clear intent that someday that could be usable space. We don't have that condition. So almost 4% of that 35.86% is genuinely non-usable space, accessible only by an attic stair, usable only for equipment. HVAC equipment that we're putting up there. So in total, of course, even if we were to put a flat roof on this structure and maintain and ask you for 32%, which is still over the allowable amount, I would ask you to consider a couple of things. The first thing, of course, is that as the application states, yes, we're taking down an existing home and we're rebuilding an entirely new structure. But the foundation of the original home is remaining intact. So we are keeping that existing footprint with the exception of adding a garage and adding a covered porch. So the first floor footprint remains virtually identical to what we have. And we're adding a second floor that I would think is very much in the character of similar homes in the neighborhood. In fact, similar homes on the same block. And in fact, similar homes that I've done on that block, I did the work at 66 Hayrick several years ago, which predates the change that you guys had in gross floor area. And the overall scale and size and feel of that home is very similar to what we're looking for here. No more fan club? That's it? Okay. So I have to go this alone? Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Sorry. So we talk about the square footage of the house. We take a look at what your variance considerations are, and we discuss what we're really talking about here, which really is it's a fairly simple and standard two-family house. The overall square footage of this home in livable area, even if I include the garage, is about 3,000 square feet. So we've got about a 2,500 square foot home between the first and second floor of heated, enclosed living space, which is very much, I think, in kind in the homes many of us grew up in. Upstairs, what we're proposing to add is 3 smaller bedrooms, 1 master bedroom, and 2 bathrooms. We don't have a luxurious amount of square footage. We don't have 400 square foot bedrooms upstairs. It's a modest amount of space. And on the first floor, again, if you refer to the plan that we've provided, the first floor is 1 large, great kind of a kitchen with an eat-in area and a living room, and a small room to the front. So we're packing a lot of stuff into this square footage. And yes, we're over. And I suppose that I could say, well, can it be achieved by some other method? And maybe that's that we would impose on the client to build a 3-bedroom house instead of a 4-bedroom house. But again, I refer to other homes in the area. There's a big marketable difference between a 3-bedroom home and a 4-bedroom home. So I think what we've presented to you is a fair application in both the size of the rooms that we're proposing, and overall this is a family home. So again, back to this attic space, the 4%, the amount that we're over. If you've seen the plans, yes, this is a little bit of an aggressive design. We have a steep slope roof on the attic. We've got some sweeps. We've got some dormers. We've tried to infuse a lot of character into this home. The goal of the applicant, who is the owner of the property at this time, the goal of the applicant is not to put up a builder's home. That was not the intention. We are looking to take what is a significantly forgotten about home, one that has been neglected for many years. If you've seen it, if any of you have already been out to the house, this is certainly not representative of what Comac is. Good, they came to the other door. Certainly not representative of what Comac is. But the house that we're proposing, I think, in scale, especially considering others on the block, I think we're really right there. And it is an aggressive design. But the neighborhood impact, I think, is nothing but positive. I think we're putting up something that people will be proud to see. We've got the house next to it, I guess we have to work on, but that maybe is a future application. But for this piece of property, I think that we're representative of other homes that are in the area in what we're requesting. So if I may address your points, is it undesirable change in the neighborhood? I'm going to submit to you no. No, it's certainly not. If anything, this is an absolute boon to this part of this block. Can the benefit be achieved by other methods? I would submit to you that, of course, we probably could lower the square footage, but we're not asking for something too ostentatious here as far as square footage. This really is a simple 1-family home with enough room for 3 kids. Is the variance substantial? I think that it is a substantial number But again, fully 10% of what we're over is entirely unusable space. Will it have an adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood? No, it won't. It absolutely would not. And finally, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, we've come to you for permission, not forgiveness.
Okay.
So with that, I open it to any questions, and I appreciate your time.
Okay. Planning?
Just one question. It sounded like it was inadvertent, but you did say that it was for a two-family house.
No, one family with a
Okay.
couple, with 3 kids.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
I just have a question. The rear yard from 50 to 48 feet, on the plot plan that was submitted from the covered porch back there, it's only 27 feet.
We had submitted a separate plot plan that was requested by the building department because they had seen that error too. We had I don't know why you don't have that in front of you.
So this
but
is the wrong plot plan?
yeah, that's correct.
Thank you.
It's short by a few feet.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So it is going to be 48 feet in the rear yard?
Yes, yes, it will.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Okay,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Is ready moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. You want to close that door? It's embarrassing. I think.
The next case is 16,893, John and Stella Mulligan, 26 Cedarwood Lane, Commack, New York. Location, south side of Cedarwood Lane, 132 feet east of Tulipwood Drive, Commack. Property zoned R10. Variance to reduce minimum rear yard setback from 50 feet to 44 feet for an existing 144 square foot first floor addition.
Did he give you the affidavits
No.
or anything? Yes, Madam Chair. Oh, okay. Usually do it when they come up. Okay. Come to the mic. State your name and address, please.
Hello, I'm John Mulligan, and my address is 26 Cedarwood Lane, Comac. My wife.
You need that to use the mic.
You need the mic.
You need to use that mic.
Oh.
If you're going to talk.
Yep. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Sure do.
Okay. Are you going to speak?
If he needs me, I will.
All right. You want
She
me to swear?
probably will.
Okay.
I'll get about 2 sentences in and then turn it over to my better half.
Let me swear you in then. Let me have your name, please.
I'm Stella Mulligan,
Okay.
and I swear to tell the truth.
and note. Okay, thank you. All right, all
Do you want me to sit down now or continue?
right, why don't you push the mic and then you can start and she can finish. All right, do you want to tell us why you're here?
Excuse me?
You want to tell us why you're here?
Oh, yeah, I've added a small room to the back of my house. It's added onto the den, and reason being is I promised her I would do it. That's the first thing. The second thing is it really adds charm to the back of the house because the den is kind of small, and this here is in the south. So it's almost all windows, so you get beautiful sunshine in the morning. And I was not aware. I put it in already, but I did it myself, and it took me like 10 years to do it. So when I finally went to get the COs, is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
I turned in all the paperwork, and the planning department found that at one specific point of the room, the corner of it is 44 feet. No, yeah, 44 feet versus 50. The other side of the room, the way the people behind me, one guy's property line goes this way, so it starts out about 50, goes to like 51 in the middle of the room, and then it sweeps back on the other property where his property line is to about 44.6 feet, actually. I rechecked with my the surveyor, and he says he agreed that it was less than 50 feet, so I was guilty for shortchanging. I wasn't even aware of the 50 feet, to be honest with you. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that say, hey, I got a backyard, and looks like 50 feet, but it's not. At that one point, one particular
see that.
corner there, if you see it there, where the property starts coming back this way, that's where I got in trouble.
Okay.
Now, I could go through the questions.
Sure.
Would you like to go through the questions, or should I keep going? How am I doing?
You can do it.
Doing good.
Whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties be created when granting of an area variance. I don't think so. You have to forgive me, I don't see very well either.
You know, you can take the mic out and walk to the,
Oh,
no, no.
Yes, at the top, this one.
I never used one of these before. Thank you. Neat. So that's the first question. The second question, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area no.
Okay. Go ahead.
Whether the requested area variance is substantial, I would say no.
No. Okay.
And whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district, definitely not. And whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, I don't know how to answer that.
Well, you built it.
Yeah, okay.
There is extenuating circumstances.
You built it. All right.
There are extenuating circumstances. He became very ill.
Yeah, but that's all right. Okay.
That's why it extended so long.
Okay. Thank you so much. Planning,
Nothing, thank you, Madam Chair.
gentlemen,
No question.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Oh, come up, please. Let me have your name, please, and spell your last name.
Gloria Kartzinel, Kartzinel.
All right? Your address, please?
9 Tulipwood Drive, Comac, New York.
Okay, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you want to tell us?
Yes, actually, my husband and I, his name is Stephen, he's not able to come today. Both him and I have prepared a statement.
Go ahead.
Just absent the granting of an adjourn of this matter, I request the following be noted in the record and giving due consideration. Please be advised that I'm nervous. Vehemently oppose the application regarding case number 16893 for a variance by John and Stella Mulligan for a reduction in the minimum rear yard requirement of 50 feet to the requested 44 feet for an existing 144 square foot. The addition built by the Mulligans interferes with the use and enjoyment of our property. We moved to our home in 2008, at which time the addition had already been illegally constructed. The properties are rather close together, and we immediately noticed sound, light, and privacy issues. The proximity of the illegal structure is conducive to the amplification of sound. The structure has large windows that emit an extraordinary amount of light at night. The proximity also infringes on our privacy. We spend a lot of time in our backyard, and the structure infringes on our use and enjoyment of same. We find it intellectually disingenuous that the Mulligans now request a variance after the fact. Clearly, the Mulligans must have known or should have known that prior approval needed to be obtained before the structure was built, and simply chose not to get the necessary approvals required by law. It is clear, however, that the Mulligans expect everyone around them to adhere to all town laws and ordinance. This is evidenced by notifying the town of a shed that had been located at another neighbor's property for decades that ultimately will be removed due to the insistence that all codes be enforced. Let it be known that this was done without the courtesy of any advisement of the neighbor involved. The Mulligans also called the town on at least 2 different neighbors' dogs for alleged excessive barking.
Excuse me.
Yes.
You are only to address the addition, nothing else.
Well, I am. And ma'am, if you just let me, this is to go to the character of.
You're not doing the character, you're addressing the additions only.
Okay, well, then
Thank
what
you.
I'm addressing is the fact that as my responsibility as a homeowner and a member of the town of Smithtown, before I have to do anything in my house, I must adhere to the laws.
Okay.
It is my responsibility to find what those laws are and to abide by them.
Well, we know what the laws are, and. all right,
Okay,
thank you.
but it's my responsibility to also know, ma'am. And I do understand,
Excuse me, address this board, please.
I do understand that coulda, shoulda, woulda, but I have to say, my experience, our experience, and I'm not the only neighbor, we have been harassed and treated illy by Mr. Mulligan.
Thank you,
Really.
thank you.
But I would like to finish my statement.
Only if you're going to address the addition.
Well, it's my whole statement. So if I could do so, it will only be 2 more minutes.
Go
I
ahead.
promise. You can time me.
Excuse me, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Finally, the plaintiff committed a trespass to perform an unauthorized survey on our property. I understand these actions have no bearing on the instant application, but are simply stated to give a general background of the character of the applicants. Once again, I request the variance be denied. Should the variance be granted, I am fully prepared to initiate Article 78 proceeding. Thank you for your anticipated consideration concerning this matter.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Come up, please. May I have your name, please?
Yes, it's Jamie Hussain, Hsaine,
And your address?
5 Tulipwood Drive, the other house butting up against the
Okay.
yard.
All right, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
Okay. Again, I'm going to tell you, you are only addressing the addition.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Like I just said, the house butts up against my yard. Any conversation that I have in my yard is sometimes answered by Mr. Mulligan. All I can say is we don't have any privacy.
Okay.
Okay? There's a problem
Okay.
there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. No one else? I'll ask to close the motion to close the hearing.
You
Is
want-
there any
you
more
want- you want
response,
him
Does he? I think.
They want a response?
All right, go ahead. Briefly. I think she's foolish to do it.
As far as the large windows that first person was talking about, we have very, very high hedges, probably 20 feet high, that there is no way that any light or
Stop.
anything can be affecting that person.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, I'll have a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
It's really moved to second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried.
Excuse me, the next case is number 16894, Transitional Services of New York for Long Island, 840 Suffolk Avenue, Brentwood, New York. Location, it says the south side of St. John Land Road. I would
Bring right to him. Thank you.
say that it's really the west side of St. John Land Road, north of the Long Island Railroad. Property zoned R43.
Wait a minute, just, are you all right? Okay.
Do you want me to continue? It's the west side. Continue?
No, just wait 1 second. Okay? Yes, go ahead now.
Okay. The request, variance to permit environmentally sensitive land, that is slopes in excess of 15%, to be altered. Reduce setback between structures and wetlands from 100 feet to 20 feet. Reduce setback between structures and steep slopes from 10 feet to 0 feet. Reduce minimum required driveway aisle width for 60-degree parking from 18 feet to 12 feet. And just the affidavits that were submitted, one of them doesn't have the addresses filled out on who you mailed to. Do you have a list of who you mailed the certified mail to? And is it part of this, an addendum? So they have an executed
Do you have the green
affidavit,
card?
but they don't have the, we do have the green cards.
Paul, what do you want?
I would hear it, but they should bring it back.
Yeah.
Is it all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what, maybe they can take the green cards and fill it out, if you want that to be done? To you?
That's fine.
All right, after the hearing, all right, if you would just sit in the back and do that, I'd appreciate it. Okay. May I have your name, please?
My name is Lindsay Meyer.
And
I am the Director of Operations for Transitional Services, who own the properties.
okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. And I'm going to ask that the architect speak on my
All right.
behalf.
Fine, thank you. May I have your name, please? And will you spell your last name?
Sure. Yes, my name is Bob Retnauer, R-E-T-N-A-U-E-R, and my address is 173 7th Street, St. James.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Good evening, Madam Chairperson and members of the Zoning Board. As I mentioned, I'm Bob Retnauer. I am the principal landscape architect with RDA Landscape Architecture located here in St. James. We are providing the site planning and landscape design services for Transitional Services of New York for Long Island, otherwise known as TSLI. TSLI is a charitable organization that has provided housing and support services for over 30 years to people in need. Also with me tonight is Steve Stritzel from my office. We're both here to answer any technical questions.
Okay, thanks.
We're appearing before you tonight in regards to the BZA application for a parking addition at the TSLI property located at 8A and 8B, Route 25A, just northwest of the Smithtown Bull. As Mr. Flynn went through I won't go through the individual variances, but TSLI, there's a couple of reasons we're looking for this parking and driveway. The first is to create a safer winter route for the staff to get into the buildings by creating a less sloped driveway. And the second is the TSLI is also experiencing a staff parking shortage. And we're proposing an additional 8-car parking spaces on a sloped grass area of the site located between the two homes. Access to these parking spaces is by a new curving driveway, and the proposed driveway will be one-way only. Parking will be for cars only, and we've kept the driveway narrow in order to maintain the residential feel of the property. Much of the center portion of the site, where the parking is proposed, is slopes greater than 15%, and we are proposing to regrade this area and use segmental block retaining walls where needed. Some trees will be removed, and we are replacing those with new planting throughout the project. We are also proposing to mitigate stormwater runoff by partially using permeable pavers in a portion of the driveway opposite the new parking spaces, and 2 rain gardens, one located just below the new parking spaces, and the other in a natural low area near the entrance to the site on Route 25A. This lower rain garden will also help alleviate continual flooding issues at the driveway entrance caused by excessive runoff from New York State Route 25A. Finally, we have also met with 2 representatives of the New York State DEC at the site. They walked the site and have no issues with the layout and actually are in favor of the drainage concepts that we're proposing. If anyone has any questions, we have some pictures of the site and some plans.
I just have one question. You know, we were there the other day. If you're coming down 25A and you're going towards the Bull and you have to make that right-hand turn to get in, is that going to stay like that? That's very difficult to make that turn.
If you're heading north on 25A?
Yeah.
Well, actually, there's 2 driveways. You have a south and a north driveway. The north entrance is actually the entrance. The southern one closest to the Bull is the exit. So you're only making a left turn
Oh.
up and going into the driveway and then coming back down to exit the site.
Okay, I don't think we did that.
Oh, you went the wrong way. Okay.
I think we went the other way. Okay. That answers my question then.
Okay.
Planning?
The Planning Department recommends approval. The request to alter steep slopes, we believe, should be taken seriously, especially when it's so close to a pond. However, I think when you look at the plans, this is kind of, I guess what you might say, it's like a textbook solution of best management practices for stormwater runoff and erosion control. The amount of planting and the type of technology is better than I've seen used in the town of Smithtown. The rain gardens, the permeable pavement, the quantity and nature of the plant materials and so on indicate to me that the pond would not be jeopardized by the work going on here.
Okay. Gentlemen, may I ask a question?
No, thank
No.
you.
No question.
Thank you so much. All right, is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Okay, come on up, please. May I have your name, please?
My name's Debbie Goupil.
You spell your last name.
Goupil.
All right, and your address, please?
Is 10 Route 25A, Smithtown, New York?
All right, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Tell us.
I'm the adjoining property. We share the property, we share the common driveway. I just want to be sure that my entrance is not going to be jeopardized with this project. I don't know, you said you were at the property, so my house is the one in the back.
Okay.
If they're doing any work on either of those entrances, exits, I need to make sure that I am able to get in and out of my property 24 hours a day. I have a young child at home, and I just need to be able to get in and out of my property.
Okay.
They had mentioned a one-way driveway. I don't know if we're supposed to be using that other entrance to come in as well, but I know I used the one probably that you came in and out of as well. So that needs to be clarified, whether that's going to be a one-way route or, for my specific property that I'll use it for, two-way or whatever the situation is. The drainage is definitely an issue. There is a huge puddle there every time we get any amount of rain. And it really, it comes up to the door on my car. And their driveway, the entrance, and the part of the driveway that goes back towards my house definitely is in need of repair. There's potholes everywhere. So I'm happy that they're doing the work, but I just want to make sure my property is not going to be affected and I am able to, access my property.
Okay. Let me hear everyone else, and then I'll bring them up to answer your concerns, okay? Next, please. May I have your name, please?
Carol Sarasic,
Spell your last name
Sarrosick,
and your address, please.
14 Somerset Drive, Smithtown.
All right, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes. My street is right across from the pond where they're building, they're making the changes. And I just want to understand how that will look from 25A. And this entrance that they're doing and exit, will that interfere with traffic on St. John's Land, because it's a very tough area at the corner there with the turn and everything.
Okay. So let me.
It's not explained, like I don't understand what they're doing, so.
Okay. Why don't you sit and then let them explain it, unless maybe they can show you.
Okay.
All right? Do you want it, you should take the microphone, please, if you can explain it. Just lift it up.
I can take this out, right?
Yes, you certainly can.
Okay, this is an overall, a map of the overall site. This is 25A here, and I believe the entrance that you went in was this one here.
Right.
By the bowl is down here.
Right.
This is the main entrance over here. We're not proposing any changes to either one of these entrances. What we are, at least physically as far as the road goes, what we are doing is enhancing the landscaping and the drainage at the corner. Because the problem here is the site is actually picking up a lot of water off of 25A, which isn't even TSLI's water, so we have to deal with it anyway. So we're not making any changes there. And the other issue was, well, that was it, the two entrances. We're not changing them, and we are dealing with the drainage around the pond area. It's going to look almost exactly the same, yes. Just more planting.
You got to be on the record. So Carol, could you just let her?
Where will the parking lot be located?
Nope.
Okay, the parking lot is in between the two homes here, up on the slope. So it's set far enough back from the road you won't even see it. Most people don't even know these houses are here.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Excuse me. You cannot.
Is the existing parking that's in front of, I believe it's 8B, the middle house, is that going to remain there?
Wait a minute.
Or, no?
Can you hear? Wait, stop, please.
No,
Huh?
no, he was up last.
Yeah, you got to restate your name and, please.
Debbie Goupil, Goupil.
Excuse me.
Mario.
Excuse me. You cannot do this. Please. Everything has to be on the record. And you haven't even been sworn in to speak. All right? So, please. Yeah, just restate your question.
I just wanted to know if the existing parking that's at 8B is going to remain there. There's a circle around by that tree that's going to remain there? No, you're going to... Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
This isn't
Stop.
the way you normally
perfect.
conduct a
Right,
meeting.
I know it.
Okay.
They really need to go in.
The applicant should probably have their final chance to explain whatever the questions were.
Right. No. Yeah.
I'll handle the question. I think the question was, is the driveway in front of 8B, which is the house to the, I guess, the north, and closest to the neighbor, is anything going to happen to that driveway? Nothing's going to happen with the route to your house, but we're actually removing part of the loop in front of 8B, so you'll have less driveway to deal with. You'll have a more direct route right to your home.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Ready, moved, and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, getting a little out of hand.
The next case is 16895. Michael Tinarello, 16 Concord Drive, Fort Salonga, New York. Location east side of Concord Drive, 617 feet north of Barber Road, Fort Salonga. Property zoned R43. Request variance to reduce minimum rear yard setback from 100 feet to 81 feet, 83 feet existing, for a proposed 1,140 square foot first floor addition.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to go into the hallway. There's a library if you'd like to go into there and look at the design. May I have your name, please?
Hi, Mike Tinarello, Tinnirello.
And your address? Yes.
16 Concord Drive, Fort Salonga.
Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like this gentleman to speak for you?
Mark, the architect, will talk.
Mark Geiselman, Geiselman, 364 West Fulton Street in Long Beach, New York.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I could distribute some clarification
Why
material.
don't you just give them to me and I'll pass them out quickly. Want to pass them to them? Gentlemen?
Okay, the scope of the work on the proposed addition we're talking about is 1,140 square foot first floor addition to an existing dwelling, consisting of a guest bedroom, a wet bar area, bathroom, laundry, and a game room, as well as a screen porch that expands to the north. And a second floor addition, which isn't involved in the variance, but a description of it is about a 315 square foot second floor addition to expand existing bedrooms and some interior alterations to reorganize some space. As mentioned, the relief we're seeking is an 81-foot rear yard setback where 100 feet is required for only the first floor addition. If you refer to the final plat that I included in the package I just gave you from 1967, the subdivision of South Colony Estates, Section 2, they made allowances on certain lots that are shallow throughout the addition. In this case, for this lot and two others, they made allowances for an 85-foot rear yard, another lot, a 90-foot rear yard, and a final lot, a fifth lot, with a 75-foot rear yard. So there was always attached to this property an allowance for an 85-foot rear yard in lieu of the 100-foot rear yard. So that's the scope of the project and the relief we're seeking. Now, to address the points, if the variance is granted, will not produce an impact on adjacent properties in the neighborhood. There's a wooded hill, if you can look at the aerial photograph that's provided there, that is behind the property, between it and the two adjacent properties to the east, the back of the rear end section of the property. In addition, the houses that are on those properties directly behind is about at least 200 feet from the property line, and the one property to the north extends extensively to the north. And I think the structure there coming to the north is about 500 feet or so from the property. So there's quite a distance there, and it's pretty heavily wooded. So the addition is not visible from either of those properties. Request is not substantial. Increases the existing nonconformance by only 2 feet, and it's at a small sliver of the addition. The total area of the nonconformance, square footage-wise, is only about 118 square feet of the total addition, so a very small portion of it. And as you can see in the highlighted area on the plot plan there, it's just a small sliver at the rear of the addition. That addition also is in line with the existing structure. And it's only, again, for that first floor portion. The benefit cannot really be achieved in any alternative method due to the shallowness of the property. That condition was addressed in the initial subdivision, and obviously that still exists. To accomplish this space and what the client wants, to expand to the north would actually be more of an impact on the property to the north than it poses to the properties to the east. Not have an adverse effect on the environment of the neighborhood. Obviously, will provide sanitary and drainage as necessary with the addition. Difficulty was not created by the owner. Obviously, the shallow lot was created in the subdivision in 1967, and that's the thing. So anybody has any questions?
Planning?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Gentlemen?
No question.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Israeli moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay. I don't think it's the noise. All right, ladies
Take 2 minutes, John.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's just take about a 5 or 10 minute break, please. Okay? Right, we better wait for the people to come back. Where'd they go? Could you ask them to come back? Maybe I should have gone up. Those people, those women were vicious.
Where are you going?
He wants to get going. Too bad. So he can go in and sit here.
Okay, the next case is 16896, Frank and Diana Somo, 1133 St. Johnland Road, Kings Park, New York. Location northeast corner of St. Johnland Road and Madison Street, Kings Park. Properties owned R10 District. Request variance to reduce minimum rear yard setback from 50 feet to 16 feet, 27 feet existing, for an existing 378 square foot deck. Reduce minimum distance from lot line from 6 feet to 2 feet for an existing 12 foot by 24 foot above ground swimming pool with a 78 square foot attached deck. Reduce setback from a fence, reduce setback of a fence from top of a retaining wall from 3 feet to 0 feet.
Okay. May I have your name, please?
We're both going to speak, so Frank Somo,
And your address?
1133 St. John Road in Kings Park.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
We're missing the affidavit of compliance, the one for mailing. We have the posting affidavit, but not the mailing affidavit.
Sorry.
It's okay. Thank you. It's not completed? Hmm? Oh, okay. Thanks.
Want to raise your hand, please? Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Would you like it? Yeah.
Sure. Diana Somo, 1133 St. John Road, Kings Park, New York.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. We actually are asking for, we asked for the variance for existing structures. As you can see by the measurements, a little bit of background. We built the house 29 years ago, and prior to building the house, we had the variances and all the permits for actually increasing the front yard at the time. It was supposed to be 20 feet to 35 feet, and the backyard, I guess it was supposed to be 35 feet to 28 feet. So 29 years ago, when we, as I said, when we presented all the plans for building of the house, that was already granted. But as far as the deck and the above-ground pool, those were added. The decking, I have to be honest, it was our own ignorance. I guess we assumed that when we had received all the variances for reducing the backyard, on the original plans of the house, the deck was included on the back of that. And since then, we put an above-ground pool also. I guess it's there, 28 years. And not knowing that 28 years ago when we asked, they said there was no permits required for that. So everything is an existing structure. It's been there for 28, 29 years. As far as the retaining wall that was on the property line, that was definitely approved because they wouldn't let us put the house up unless we had this retaining wall, and it was made with railroad tie there because our property is higher than the neighboring lot. Well, after 28 years, the railroad ties rotted. So we decided we had to put up a new wall, and the wall that we have replaced it with is we were told by the building department, no higher than 29 inches in, 29 inches, or 30 inches in, and then another tier. We had to tier the wall instead of making it one structure. So it's a tiered wall. So we've reduced, so actually here it says reducing the setback of the fence. The fence is actually now from the property line 30 inches in, but it is on the inner tier. It's like the second tier of the wall. As far as the considerations, it's not really changed. Actually, the wall has improved the character of the neighborhood. My neighbors I really would rather look at that than the big wall of China, as we used to call it. It's unsubstantial because it's sitting there already. I don't think it has no adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood. And yes, it was self-created because we did build everything. So, okay.
Planning?
Nothing, thank you.
Gentlemen?
No, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Rayleigh moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
The next case is 16897, Adam DeMayo, 18 Forest Road, Kings Park, New York. Location, east side of Forest Lane. It says lane, one says road. I think it's road. 108 feet north of Main Street, Kings Park. Property zoned R10. Request variance to increase maximum paving in front yard from 25% to 30%. Reduce minimum front yard from 25 feet to 14 feet, 19 feet existing, for an existing 36 square foot portico.
May I have your name, please?
Adam DeMayo,
And your address?
18 Forest Road, Kings Park.
Okay. You raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Would you like this gentleman to speak for you?
Good evening. Jose Tavares, architect,
Say
1150.
your last name.
T as in Tom, A, V as in Victor, E, R, A, S as in Sam.
And your address?
1156 Namdak Avenue, Bayshore, New York, 11706.
Okay, raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. When I bought the house, everything there was existing, but I did renovate the house, and it was in poor condition. So the portico that's there now wasn't the existing one. I just replaced it, and that's the height discrepancy. And when I bought the house, there wasn't a driveway. There was just an entrance from the road. And when I paved it, I basically put enough for my wife's car and my car, and a couple more spots so guests can come. I wasn't aware that I was over the limit, so.
Let me just add to that a little bit more. I mean, that the front yard paving, you got to realize the street that we're in is a very narrow street, which doesn't allow for many cars to park on the road, which causes a lot of problems on that street. A lot of accidents if there are cars parked on either side of the road. No traffic can get through it, school buses, fire department, nobody can go through. So we need to park on site. The extra area that we're exceeding it is not really much. All you can fit is basically 3 cars on site. And when there is company over, obviously there's no, everybody has to use the road. So that it's a detriment there for that. And it's a necessity to have a little bit more parking on site. The front yard setback, as Mr. DeMayo said, is a requirement because the house existed with a non-conforming, it's a non-conforming lot. Most of those houses around the neighborhood are all non-conforming with respect to the front yard setback, so that the house itself doesn't meet the requirement. So how could the stoop meet it? And it doesn't, unfortunately, like most houses. And we do need the roof over the stoop at least. We meet the requirement for the area of the stoop, which is under the 36 square feet. It's just that we're wider than the 6-foot requirement that the zoning allows for. So that's all.
Thank you. Planning?
I think that the request for the portico is de minimis. The request for the paving would be, I think, bad for the town in the future if there were many. However, I think that because the road is narrow, I don't think the circumstances are universal. And so I think that this would not have an effect in the future on the town overall.
Okay.
Not have a bad effect, anyway.
Okay, thank you. Anyone, any questions, gentlemen?
No question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Really moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
The next,
Go ahead.
the next case is 16,898, Burger Station LLC, 4 Esplanade Drive, East Patchogue, New York. Location, southeast corner of Jericho Turnpike and Veterans Memorial Highway, Comac. Property zoned WSI. Request, special exception to permit a counter service restaurant. Special exception to permit a 993 square foot outdoor dining area. Variance to reduce minimum parking spaces from 56 to 23. Reduce truck loading spaces from 1 to 0. Reduce front yard landscaping from 8% to 3%. Reduce minimum rear yard setback from 50 feet to 13 feet for a proposed 400 square foot addition, 10 feet existing. Reduce front yard setback from 50 feet to 44 feet existing. Reduce parking setback to side and rear lot lines from 6 feet to 0 feet. Variance of a special exception standard that requires adequate lot area. Variance of a special exception standard that requires adequate buffers. Variance of a special exception standard that requires adequate parking. Variance of a special exception standard that requires a 25-foot planting area in front yard and 6 feet to other lot lines. Variance of a special exception standard that prohibits outdoor dining. Reduce front yard parking setback from 20 feet to 5 feet.
Okay. May I have your name, please?
Anthony Amendola,
Okay, and Anthony, spell your last name.
Amendola,
And your address?
4 Esplanade Drive, East Patchogue.
Okay. Are you a officer in this?
Correct.
You are. And your position?
President.
Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right. Now, would you like this gentleman
Yes,
to
Mark
speak for?
Mancini.
Okay. Okay. Let me just wait here. Let me get things.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and members of the board. My name is Mark Mancini, architect, town of Smithtown, 222 Middle Country Road, Smithtown, New York.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I'm excited about this one. This is a nice location. What David just ran through, there's been some back and forth this week about whether this should be a counter-serve restaurant or a waitress serve or restaurant as we define it. If you look at the drawings and you go through them, you'll notice that we have a washroom for dishes, and we also have the setup for a counter.
Could I interrupt just to help?
Sure.
We sent a memo to the board saying that we agree with you that it's a restaurant.
Okay.
So-
Don't need to prove it then.
Right.
Right. So
Rest assured, that's what it will be.
Okay.
The location, if all of you are aware, this is a picture right here of the existing place. I think this has been vacant, I'd say about 15 to 20 years, David. It's right at the entrance of Smithtown. If you're coming from Huntington and you're going into Smithtown, into the Comac area, this is one of the first buildings that you see. And that's why I'm excited about this one. Here we have my client who's going to take this, pretty much a building that's been used as a billboard by political people who have post their signs on this building for quite a number of years now. It's been painted, but it's been sitting there vacant. It was full of pigeons. They've already gotten rid of them and evicted them. And now we're looking at taking this building and making it a very nice restaurant right at the corner, what we call Comac Corners. The lot is a little tight, but it shares a parking lot along with Bank of America. That's right adjacent to it. The number of parking is not significant when we go to a regular restaurant. It's not going to be undesirable. If you look at the design of the building, you can see behind me, we're going to do a very nice-looking, slick design, very good materials. We're not going to be using Dryvit or anything like that. You can see the building has nice wood planking. It has metal sunshades and things like that. The outdoor seating, of course, we'd love to have that. I understand there might be an issue with the WSI. Maybe we could rectify that in the future, if we look forward to it. As far as health department, we are filing, the calculations work out for around a little more than 30 seats, 30 to 35 seats. It's going to be a small restaurant, and that's okay. It's some takeout, some sit down. It's going to be a very nice place right in a location that probably has one of the largest traffic flows in Long Island. Maybe you call this the crossroads of Long Island. I don't know. Any questions?
How many employees?
Anthony, would you like to answer?
We're guesstimating around maybe 10 to 15.
Employees?
Correct. Well, part-time and full-time.
How many
I think
there?
he's on at one time.
Yeah.
Pardon?
On at one time, I think he means.
At one time, I mean, it depends on traffic of the business itself, the volume. I'm anticipating probably 10.
The planning department is concerned that there won't be enough parking. I think we counted you have 38 seats. And if you figure, hopefully they're all occupied, that's probably about 19 cars required for them. Probably about half the number of employees will drive in their own car, typical. Some will get dropped off or they'll carpool. And there's no on-street parking in the area. There are no municipal lots in the area. When I went with two board members to inspect the property on Monday, around 10 in the morning or 11 in the morning, the bank parking lot was so full there really wasn't much room for this to overflow into that. So we're a little concerned about that. It looks like it could be redesigned to fit around 30 to 31 stalls in there, but we want to know from you what you think you'll need in terms of parking.
Well, first of all, there is, if you look at that site plan, the bank has, I guess, I'm not going to call it an easement, but they have their parking that kind of overlays a little bit onto this side of the property. Yeah, I look at this as kind of almost a swap use where I think Anthony's business is going to be picking up at nighttime where the bank is closing. And I look at the parking as having that ability to kind of go back and forth during, at opposite times.
In all honesty, I was hoping that's what you would say.
Yeah.
May I add? Well, basically, the business, that's 10 employees would probably be during the evening hours, after dinner, and usually the banks are closed by then. So that's where the overflow would occur. That's what we're anticipating.
One of the things I guess that warrants explanation, because I believe when you first met with the planning department, we weren't aware, to tell you the truth, that outdoor dining is not permitted in WSI, even though that's what the code says. It comes up so infrequently. And it was adopted in 1984, I believe, or 83, when I wasn't working for the planning department. And I guess when I started employment in the planning department, the cases that came in were in other zoning districts, except for two. And one of them was one that you might have heard of for a Sonic restaurant in Lake Grove. And that attorney brought to our attention that the use is not permitted in WSI. So that's how it came up.
Okay.
It might be advisable for the town board to amend the zoning ordinance, but in the meantime, it's, you know, the board's obligation to obey it, or, you know, to follow it.
Yeah, if I put on my other hat for a second as chamber president in Smithtown, I get involved with a lot of different restaurants, and obviously the outdoor seating, and we can name quite a few. Nappertandy's in the middle of Smithtown, Ragazzi Restaurant, we're close to where Sonic was supposed to be, has outdoor seating. We can go on and on. I think several of them have been in the past few years. It's become a very popular thing, and it works quite well. And if you know, if we could move forward towards getting the board to look at WSI, because that is kind of a zoning I think is almost getting to the point where it's getting aged, I guess.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us agree with you, but
Yeah.
it would be the town board that has to make that
Yeah,
change, not
not
this
us.
board. So put your hat on and march into town hall.
On my
I will
list,
do that.
On my list of things to do is I'll recommend to the
And I-
planning director to recommend that the town board
And I'm not doing it.
amend it, amend the zoning ordinance.
Let me ask you a question, though.
Sure.
Do you want to have it redesigned so you can get, I think it's 8 more parking spaces? Was that what you thought you could get?
They could get around 30.
Oh,
The-
yep,
the-
okay.
The newer memo doesn't recommend that they follow any particular plan. But absent Mr. Mancini's presentation tonight, Mr. Amendola's presentation tonight, based on the information that we had, it looked like the parking that they would need would be in the upper 20s or 30-ish.
Okay.
If they wish to redesign it, I think the board should allow them that flexibility without having to come back to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That's
'cause I
fair.
think he would pick up like 7 more parking spaces,
I
am I
think so.
correct? Yeah,
All right.
all right.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, any other questions?
No question.
Okay. Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Regularly moved in second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried.
The next case is 16,899. David Romano, 5 Charles Court, Ronkonkoma, New York. Location, the north side of Charles Court, 140 feet west of Schoolhouse Road, Ronkonkoma. Property zoned R10. Request, variance to reduce minimum front yard setback from 25 feet to 24 feet and reduce minimum side yard setback from 12 feet to 3 feet for an existing 315 square foot porch. Reduce minimum rear yard setback from 35 feet to 32 feet for an existing 20 square foot addition. Reduce minimum setback from 6 feet to 1 feet for an existing 150 square foot shed. To increase the floor area ratio from 25% to 100%, which is existing. If the land were not environmentally sensitive, the floor area ratio would be 18%. Permit environmentally sensitive land, that is, depth to groundwater less than 10 feet, to be altered.
Okay. Who's the applicant? You are?
David Romano, 5 Charles Court,
Okay.
Ronkonkoma, Romano.
Okay, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Now, would you like this lady to speak for you?
Yes.
Thank you. May I have your name? Would you spell your last name for us?
Sure. Grace Trinchetta, Trinchetta.
Okay, and your address?
206 Main Street, Farmingdale, New York, 11735.
Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here representing Mr. Morano of 5 Charles Court. He is respectfully requesting to reduce his minimum front yard from 25 feet to 24 minimum side yard, from 12 feet to 3 feet for an existing front yard for his wraparound porch, which is actually 315 square feet. Also to reduce minimum rear yard from 35 feet to 32 feet for an existing rear yard enclosed boiler room. Also to decrease the minimum distance from the rear lot line from 6 feet to 1 feet for an existing shed, which is 150 square feet. Mr. Romano purchased this house August of 2012. He purchased the house with all these structures that never had permits or C of Os, so he is doing the right thing by trying to obtain them. He's also hired Slake Test Boring Incorporated for his soil boring test, and also obtained Robert B. Holtzler, surveyor, also that the town just let us know. Crystal and them didn't even know there was in wetlands, sensitive lands. She just told me a week ago. So now he's obtained them, and so hopefully in the next few weeks we can bring that in to Stephanie Hurd at the town so we can drop that off. And that's just basically it.
Okay. And you know there's no decision tonight because you need that test hole.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, she told me.
All right, good. Planning?
The ordinarily variances that deal with groundwater should be looked at carefully because it might either worsen groundwater flooding for neighbors, or it might worsen groundwater pollution, or the person who lives there might be impacted by the groundwater. But in this case, the kinds of structures that are attempting to be legalized don't seem to be the kind that would create the impact. If someone were building a building where they were importing water, which most of us do, from the street system and then disposing it on site, they'd be adding water to the water table in the area. But this really isn't for that. I believe the small addition, I think, is just for a boiler.
That's correct.
I don't see more water being added to the regime here. So I don't think it should be a problem.
Okay, thank you. Gentlemen? Okay. Thanks so much. Thank you. Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Early moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case is 16,900, John and Lizanne Foley, 14 Cliff Drive, Kings Park, New York. Location south side of Cliff Drive, 602 feet east of Melody Lane, Kings Park. Property zoned R21. Request variance to reduce minimum rear yard setback from 68 feet existing to 48 feet for a proposed 1,312 square foot covered patio.
Okay, may I have your name, please?
Lizanne Foley,
And your address, please?
14 Cliff Drive, Kings Park, New York.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
I have new plans, well, not plans, just sketches for the patio. When I originally went for the variance, my architect, we were going for the 20-foot across the back. But when we were configuring it, we're taking a lot less than that. So instead of the 1,350 square feet, that it says, my architect said it should be more like 950 to 1,000 square feet.
Say that again, 900 and what?
950 to 1,000, he said it should be. Now, what we're doing is, I originally had for the last 12 or 13 years an awning that was put on the whole back of my house, about 1,200 square feet, and it got destroyed in Sandy. So what I'm looking to do is do a permanent structure on the house, because after Sandy and all the winds, my whole back of my house almost got ripped off because, because of the awning and the pressure that it took. So what I'm just proposing is just to get a permanent structure instead of the awning that I would take down and put up every year. And it would bring value to my house, and I'll pay more taxes.
And you're still going to 48 feet?
Yeah,
Okay.
at the farthest.
Okay. Thank you. Planning?
No comments, thank you.
Gentlemen? Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Really moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
The next case is 16,901, Kerry Klimple, 11 Riviera Drive, Smithtown, New York. Location, south side of Riviera Drive, 377 feet west of East Lane, Smithtown. Property zoned R10. Request variance to reduce minimum front yard from 40 feet to 36 feet for an existing 126 square foot front porch. Reduce the minimum side yard from 12 feet to 0, and the total side yard from 28 feet to 15 for an existing 273 square foot carport.
Donald King, 75 East Main Street, Kings Park, New York, attorney for the applicant. Normally, I wouldn't be here asking for a variance of this magnitude, but I'd like to present to you some reasons why I think you may be able to grant it, specifically a medical necessity. My client, and I'm going to read you a couple of letters, if I may, needs this carport for her van. And the first letter, if you'd bear with me, I'd like to read into evidence is the neighbor who is most impacted by this carport. To whom it may concern, I reside at 14 Riviera Drive. I have known Miss Carrie Kimball's neighbor for more than 10 years. My home is adjacent to the current carport that has been in place since I resided at 14 Riviera Drive. For the record, I would like to say that the carport is in no way, and she emphasizes no way, a hindrance, eyesore, or intrusion to my property. As a matter of fact, I prefer it there as it provides privacy to my residents along that side of my property. I have also noted on many occasions that Mrs. Klimple unloads her handicapped vehicle under the carport, and it provides shelter to her during inclement weather. I am also aware that she has health issues related to heart and back and has dealt with this since I've known her. And this carport serves the purpose of making her daily life more manageable from day to day. As a retired contractor, I have also looked over the carport, and it appears to be built according to all code standards and is safe in every way. Aesthetically, it matches the home and is sided with matching siding and shingles blending with her home. In closing, I have absolutely no objection to the carport, and do not wish any change to the serenity and privacy it provides me that I now enjoy because of it. It's signed by Frank Keltner. I also have a letter from Suffolk Heart Group that sets forth my client's heart problems. It may be advisable, in part I'm reading it, for her to restrict her activities so that her carport is closer to her home rather than elsewhere. Her symptoms have been effort-related and exercise capacity is limited, and it's signed by David Farr, MD, and I'd like to hand that up to the board from Suffolk Heart. My client also has scoliosis, and I have a letter and a form from North Shore Orthopedic. I'd like to hand that up for your consideration. Now, I know when I ask for something of this magnitude, the board always says that, you know, well, you'll be back and sticking it in our nose that we gave you this. But there was a case where the board gave me an extraordinary variance, and I never brought up that before this board since that day. This is a medical necessity. I'm certainly not coming back to the board and say, well, you gave it to this lady. I think this is an extraordinary circumstance, and I'd like you to take that into consideration. Will this have an undesirable change to producing the character of the neighborhood? Absolutely not. The neighbor doesn't care. It's been there for 14 years. She absolutely needs this. Can it be achieved by some other method? No, it's up. We need it. She really needs it. Is the variance substantial? You might consider it substantial, but if you remember the Hunanan case where I sued the board and we prevailed, Judge Peter Mayer said it was substantial, but we prevailed in the case. So the fact that it's substantial is not fatal. Will it have an adverse effect on the environment? No, it's always been there. Is it self-created? Yes, it's self-created, but that is also not fatal. I'd like to hand up a photo, if I may. Two photos, in fact. One is her license plate, and one is the van shown in the carport.
Do you have those labeled with the case number and everything? Okay, thank you.
I can't begin to tell you how upset my client is about this and how nervous she is. So if you could take it into consideration, as I indicated, a medical necessity. This isn't just somebody that wants to wing it. She really, really needs this, and I'd appreciate if you could look favorably upon it.
How does she open that door? Okay. Planning?
The only thing that I would say is, you know, what do you say to the other people that you denied that were further from the property line than this? One thought that I had with respect to this one, since it seems to be based not on the property but on the person, is if you approve it, or maybe you could approve it subject to it being removed at such time as the property owner moves. I don't know.
She's not agreeing to that. She's staying in this house. And I don't like in futuro possibilities. She's not taking it down. This is a medical necessity. I told you this. You could explain away any other variance by let somebody else come in with a medical necessity. But if they're just asking for zero, then I could say you could turn it down. Each case must be taken on its own merits, not a blanket decision. She needs this.
The only concern is if there's no consideration for a BZA, that we're not supposed to look at that. So obviously you can't take
Yeah, but you look at all kinds of
you can't take
nonsense.
your emotions out of it. So obviously we want to try and figure out how to approve it. But if there have been 10 in the past that we've denied, how do we say to them, well, if there was something wrong with you, we could have approved it?
But you just said you gave me, I think it was a 55% floor area ratio, or 50%. And in doing so, I said I wouldn't come back with it. And I think you have to take each case on its own merits and its own circumstances, and this in futuro nonsense drives me crazy. Well, what if it's this or what if it's that? You can turn down a person. This is a medical necessity. This lady needs it. She has a heart problem.
How does she need it if she doesn't own the property anymore?
Well, if that's the condition you're going to make it, then that's the condition you're going to make.
I'm just asking.
That's what he was
Well, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. I mean, you're going to do whatever you want to do. But she needs this now. And she told me she expects to live in this the rest of her life. So if that's a condition you have to impose it.
All right. Let me ask you, Don, I see this van here, and I see the door. If she's the driver, how does she get out of this van?
Would you come up, please, and explain that to her?
Let me swear you in, dear, okay? Give me your name.
Carrie Klimpel,
And your address.
12 Riviera Drive, Smithtown, New York.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. I see the van is so close to this side wall. How do you get out?
Now, I get in the van from the other side, okay?
Or
Or
this-
from the side door, and then I can go into the front from there. And that's how I pull it in. I have room to come out of the side door to get into my house. It doesn't fit in the garage. It's a high-top van. It can't fit in the garage.
I understand that.
Okay.
So you go in on the passenger side?
I go in on the side door. There's a walk-through. There's a walk-through. It's a
That's the
sliding
van.
door. It's a sliding door on the side.
Okay.
I go in the sliding door on the side, and there's a walk-through.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Ready to move in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
The next case is 16902, 521 Tristan's Way, 521 Jericho Turnpike, Smithtown, New York. Location, north side of Jericho Turnpike, 147 feet west of Meadow Road, Smithtown. Property zoned R21. Request, variance to change a non-conforming use to another non-conforming use. Permit a non-conforming use to be expanded. Expand a structure used for a non-conforming use. Reduce truck loading spaces from 1 to 0. Reduce parking setback from side lot lines from 50 feet to 16 feet. Expand a portion of a lot and paving used for non-conforming use. Permit alterations to exceed 75% of the fair market value of the structure.
Hi,
Hello. May I have your name, please?
Susan Walsh, W-A-L-S-H,
And your address, Susan?
196 Nichols Road, Nesconset, New York, 11767.
Raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And your position as far as?
I am the president of the corporation.
Of the corporation. Okay, thank you. Now, would you like this gentleman to speak for you?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. My name is Doug Hines, Design Development Group, Stony Brook, New York, representing the applicant. It sounds like a heck of a call of a meeting, but it boils down to some pretty simple realities that I think
Okay, I don't think I swear you. Do you
You
swear
did.
to tell the whole truth and nothing but
I
the
do
truth?
indeed.
Good. Thank you.
It boils down to a limited number of considerations, all of which are very favorable for the property, for the historical nature of the property, the local waterfront revitalization program, and the request for the variance relief and the expansion of the use. We have a two-story wood frame structure totaling 2,374 square feet. The proposed addition to house Mrs. Walsh's hair salon business, relocated from St. James, is only 626 square feet. This is indeed a historic structure. It's been on the town's inventory since the late 1970s and is reputed to have been built in 1860. In 1987, the town board, on its own motion, upzoned the property from neighborhood business to R21 as part of its local waterfront revitalization program rezonings. In 1990, a certificate of existing use was approved by this board for the building, and the building at that time had been in use for many years as a two-story retail store. In 2002, a CO was issued for interior alterations and skylight changes for the existing commercial building. Ms. Walsh purchased the property just a year ago in order to improve it and to relocate her business. I've handed up to the board two exhibits. One is a collation of aerial, historic, and building photographs. Another is the site plan. As to the change of a non-conforming use one to another, we're going from retail to retail/personal service, but essentially it's the commercial use sanctioned by the existing certificate of existing use. In terms of expanding a non-conforming building in coverage, as you will see from the photographs and from the site plan, we've highlighted in yellow a 5,000 square foot building, barn/warehouse that was actually demolished this past year And so with a $5,000 square foot demolition and a 400 or 500 square foot expansion, we actually have, in terms of impervious structures, a 4,400 square foot reduction in the coverage on this property, and that's a good thing. As far as the side yard buffer is concerned, we do manage the 50-yard buffer in the rear of the property where we abut residential property, residentially zoned and used. And on the two sides, we have, in effect, increased the buffer from non-existent to 16 feet. Where the barn and warehouse building sat was right on our west property line. That was the only buffer between us and the neighbor. And on the east side, we abut commercially used property whose building is right on their property line, so they actually have more of an impact on us than our proposed parking area 16 feet away would ever have on them. So we don't see that as a substantial expansion. The reduction of the truck loading space from 1 to 0 is well supported by the facts. The business accepts 1 weekly delivery in a small panel-style truck, UPS-style truck. There's plenty of room in back of the building for a quick drop-off. There's no extensive commercial unloading that takes place for this type of a business. We have a couple of other steps to take in connection with moving this project along. One is the Planning Division, as I understand it, is waiting for a recommendation from the town's Historical Advisory Board. I've only been involved in the project for a week or so, but apparently we need to provide some additional information about our design and material finishes. We are nonetheless confident, we've spoken with the Historic Society, that we will be able to satisfy the town's reasonable requirements as to the appearance of the property. And frankly, as I'm sure you know from your recent inspection, it is in dire need of some attention, some tender loving care, and happily we have an owner in Sue Walsh who is committed to that end. Finally, we are also within the ambit of the LWRP, and we will eventually need town board consideration and a resolution as to our project being consistent. We believe the town board will find as such, although we will need to retain roof runoff from the new structure on the property, and we will have some paving around the building and in the handicap accessible spots, but the majority of the parking area proposed will be gravel to the satisfaction of the engineering division. That configuration and use of the property, which represents coverage, the paving in the front, the gravel in the back, is documented in the town's records as having been in existence for a quite considerable period of time, but obviously we're going to clean it up and landscape it, so it's a win-win situation, we believe. Accordingly, we would respectfully submit that the applicable residential zoning classification causes an unnecessary hardship for us. The applicant cannot possibly realize a reasonable return on straightforward residential development at that busy location. Hardship is certainly unique and does not apply to a substantial portion of the district or the neighborhood. The requested relief will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood and indeed will enhance it. And finally, I'm so happy to be able to say this once in my career, that the hardship has not been self-created. The town board did it. That's our case. We respectfully request your favorable consideration.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead. You go to the mic, dear.
The reason that I fell in love with that building is because of the charm of the look. I absolutely love that building. So in keeping with its integrity and its history, that's my main goal because I love the way it looks. So it's only going to be really the outside cleaned and youthful looking, but the same look. I love it. I love that building.
Thank you. Okay. Planning?
The Planning Department recommends approval based on a number of reasons. The proposal would protect and restore a historic building. It would result in a reduction in intensification of the use of the property, which is in the Nisququogue River corridor. If you think of the proposal as a combination of activities, including the demolition of the existing warehouse, the reuse of the historic building and the fixing up of it, and the small addition to it, and the reduction of paving, the increase in landscaping, and so on and so forth, I think it's fair to say that to the average citizen it would be far more attractive once it's been completed. The applicant's representative, Mr. Hines, seems to have touched on the idea that there's a use variance involved. In my opinion, I don't think that's true, because there's specific authority in the zoning ordinance for the board to grant this kind of a variance. It's basically where you, the board, find that the change of use is beneficial to the community, you're authorized to grant it. And that's not the case in a normal use variance. So what I think you might want to know is that procedurally, where I was saying that this is all a package, the property owner, I guess in good faith, took a risk and took down the large non-conforming building in the back, hoping that the board will grant approval for what she wants to do in the front. So presumably, that would be a good thing when you look at it in an overall standpoint, as though the building hadn't come down yet. That's part of the reason that the variance to permit alterations to exceed the fair market, 75% of the fair market value variance should be granted, is the alterations are probably not more than 75% once you include the demolition of the building in the back. Just to elaborate a little bit on Mr. Hines' presentation, the board has previously granted 2 certificates of existing use on this property. It's my recollection that the latest one is for a 2-story retail store in the front, with the building in the back being accessory to that. So in this situation, it would be converted to a 2-story personal service shop. And if you look at the plans, you'll see that the second floor, a fairly decent percentage of it is the office, which appears to be not to be rented out to another user, but the office for the proposed use. The procedure, the last part of my presentation to you, is the procedure here involves the approval of many entities. Obviously, it requires building permit approval, site plan approval, and health department approval, like virtually everything else in the town of Smithtown, except for 1- and 2-family homes. This requires a few more approvals. The town board has to determine that this is consistent with the waterfront program. This is in the DEC Wild, Scenic, and Recreational Rivers Corridor for the Nisqually River, so they need DEC approval. As you know, this board is prevented from approving an action until the town Department of Environment and Waterways finishes its review and makes a recommendation to you. Right now, no recommendation has been made. I believe that they wish to see the minutes of the hearing. That's my recollection. I'm not sure. But in any event, I would expect that they would want to know, before they make a recommendation to you, what the town board does with respect to the LWRP and the DEC's position on the river corridor. It's my understanding that the planning department's going to recommend that this is consistent with the LWRP based on detailed reasons that really wouldn't, it's not worth your time to go over them here, but my understanding is that the planning department would recommend that it's consistent. In all likelihood, the town board would agree. And then the town Department of Environment and Waterways would probably be wanting to know where this is, or what the state DEC recommends or would approve, and what the county health department would approve. So then you would be free to act, assuming that it's okay with those 2 agencies. If you approve this, then they need some form of site plan approval and a building permit.
Okay.
By next week.
Right. I do have from Howard Barnett, and that's what they're looking for. They're looking for the public hearing, the minutes of this public hearing. Okay.
Very good. That's our understanding of the situation, and we appreciate Mr. Flynn's detailed recital of the matter. We believe we meet the applicable requirements and look forward to the board's favorable consideration in due course.
Thank you so much. Okay. Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain the motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Regularly moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. All right. You need to take a break.